Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. We will be starting in a few minutes. We just want all our participants to be here. Thank you for your patience. For those of you coming in, we are just waiting for all the participants to join. Please bear a few minutes and we will start the webinar. Thank you for your patience. For those of you coming in, thank you for joining us. We will start the webinar in a few minutes. We just want all the participants to be on the page. Thank you for your patience.
The role of the aquaculture industry is becoming more and more important with the world's growing population. The demand for high-quality protein will increase rapidly in the coming years, based on the challenge of feeding 9 billion people by 2050. Close to 70% of our oceans are being overfished, and most commercial fishes will become extinct by 2050. Aquaculture provides a sustainable solution to feeding the world while reducing environmental footprint. Aquaculture has been responsible for the impressive growth in the supply of fish for human consumption. A milestone was reached in 2014 when the aquaculture sector's contribution to the supply of fish for human consumption overtook that of wild-caught fish for the first time. A considerable potential combat the limited resources of land and water we are facing today. Blue Aqua's innovative and sustainable solutions may help to overcome these limitations. We place our business under the philosophy of intensification. Productive utilization of the land is vital, and we believe that intensification is the only solution. Our mission is to help our customers to operate their business profitably and environmentally friendly. We offer a wide range of products including water quality and soil management, nutrition and feed quality, disease control, and technological equipment. We provide customized management protocols for our customers to guarantee the results and performance of our system. Our system has been proven outstanding for increasing carry capacity, high yield, easy management, high return on investment, and environmentally safe. Blue Aqua International is the inventor of Mixotrophic System, a patented system for management of super-intensive culture of fish and shrimp.
Mixotrophic system is a system that is very easy to manage is environmentally friendly and increase the profit of the farmer. Using the mixotrophic system will allow you to increase the carrying capacity of the farm and increasing the biomass and number of the stocking.
Seeing the importance of technological advancement, Blue Aqua developed one of the first aquaculture application for mobile users. Blue Aqua mobile application is a user-friendly tool for updates on aquaculture news and shrimp prices. It can also be used for quick calculating of important parameters for aquaculture operation. We value our strong network in the aquaculture industry by involving many levels of communication across organizational boundaries. We operate in 13 aquaculture countries globally, including Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, China, India, Bangladesh, Middle East, United States, Mexico, Brazil, Ecuador. Innovation drives the aquaculture industry forward. Our research and development facility in Singapore helps us to bring forth new innovative concepts, products, and systems.
With our expertise and true experience in aquaculture industry, we are confident that our innovative and practical solutions can help fish and shrimp farmers all around the world to grow their business sustainably and profitably.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Good afternoon. I'm Bahar Shishichian, Vice President of Sales for the Blue Aqua Group. I want to welcome everyone to the Practical Pond Management for Disease-Free Operation webinar conducted by Dr. Farshad Shishichian, CEO and founder of the Blue Aqua Group. We're currently live from Singapore. I want to welcome all the participants for joining this webinar. Our attendees today are farmers, technicians, dealers, students, scientists, and aqua professionals all across India, and few delegates from foreign countries as well. I think most of the participants are here, so we are ready to start. Just to let everyone know, you can post your questions on YouTube live chat on the right of your screen. And at the end of the webinar, Dr. Farshad Shishichian will answer some of the selected questions. We will try to go through all the questions and answer everything. So now, without further ado, let us welcome Dr. Farshad Shishichian. He has been in the aquaculture industry for the past 30 years, and he is very well associated with the Indian aquaculture practice for the past 10 years. Dr. Farshad, please.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm sorry for all these I don't know, the technology problem. Nowadays, we have a lot of seminar, webinar happening. So we have sometimes difficulty of the running the things. Okay. I appreciate we have quite number of the participants today. I can see we have about 159 people. I'll be talking more about the practical pond management that will help us to operate disease-free.
Good afternoon.
And I think
Sorry for all this.
I will start with a little bit of information about who we are, our company, and our company details. Let me see. Okay. So Blue Aqua started at 2009. We are today in 2020, and we have done a lot of work in our company. I think this is our company structure. So we have quite a number of the company around the world that operating and working on the aquaculture industry. These are our operational country. As you see, India is very important for us. So we have a lot of work I've done in the past 10 years in India. Our mission and vision is very clear. We are working on the basically more on the intensification and food security, because I feel it's very, very important. So we need to have a good understanding how to use the resources and how we can get all the limited resources such as energy, water, and the land to be utilized correctly. I think our core value, if I want to translate, it would be the supporting the sustainable industry. We have a honesty, respect for the people, innovation. We move fast, and we have a passion for our business. What we do, we have a lot of innovation. We support our customers and our clients, and also we have a very good global network. This is our business, basically, what you call capability. We have a feed mill, we have a hatchery, we are working on a farm, we have a product and technology, food and supply, and also we have two patents in our company, so I will explain a little bit more about all this patent, which I think one of them is mixotrophic. We have patented in 8 countries. So today I'm going to talk more about this one and see how we can really control the disease by using the correct environmental factors. We just recently working on the patenting the new system, which is we call it multi-species super intensive zero waste system. We are practicing this one in Singapore. So I will explain later more detail. So this one we trying to utilize the nature and the natural environment to reduce basically the cost of production. Today in Singapore, my farm, we are doing mostly around 2,000 pieces of shrimp per square meter. I will explain later how we can manage that kind of density. Our leadership, we have a number of the warehouse, factory, office, and farm around the world. These are our key business drive. I think I will pass quickly. This is our product category that we supply in the market. So we have mineral, we have bioremediation, we have nutrition, and disinfectant. We do a lot of customized solutions. So today we are going to talk more about like how to control disease such as white feces, EHP, especially vibriosis, which is a big problem today in our industry. This is one of our farm in Singapore. It is I think is one of the most advanced, can say, shrimp and fish farm that running in a tropical environment for the super intensive. So we have a lot of new technology here. If we have a time, I will explain more later. we have a project in Oman. There's a similar concept. This is another farm we have in Singapore, is a raceway system, and also we run a hatchery. The production of this farm, it can go up to 20 kilo per cubic meter of the water. We have farm in Indonesia. We have our factories and facility. We have project, we are working on a super intensive diet. And then we have our supply of the, the construction and the equipment. We have a turnkey project in Qatar. We are building the largest indoor shrimp farm in Qatar, which is a $25 million project. We have our food supply. We have a brand is a Nature Hub. We are selling in Singapore for the supermarkets. Okay, so I think I will start from here. Today I'm gonna little bit discuss about this aquaculture circular economy, which is very, very important. I think this is our operational rationale. So we try to use a different part of the, nature to control the system we have. We are working on we have a concept, we call it Dr. Shrimp. This is basically a company and also is a information center. So we focus on the 5 species commonly cultured around the world. Is a Wanami, Monodon, Stylorostris, Kurma shrimp, Japanicus, and also Indicus shrimp. We work on a Pampano as a fish species. And this is our method of the culture, which again, we will explain later more. We have our air dome and agrodome that will control the environment and biosecurity. And we work on we have a company, we call it SCU Green Aqua Farm. This is working on the seaweed farming. It's a very, very interesting project. We have just started very recently. We work with a different organization around the world, so we have a lot of good connection and network. Okay, let's talk about practical pond management for the disease, how we can really, really do this. If you go back to the aquaculture history, I think so many years ago, humans started this industry in a very primitive way. You can see, like, this is the picture from Java. You can see people just by blocking the water, they do farming. Then we start to move to a totally different culture system. This is the farm that is in Indonesia, is the largest shrimp farm in the world, is Dipasana. Basically, it was not very successful. So it doesn't mean that if we get bigger means we will have a better result. So we see what make a success in our industry. Okay, so today we are working on AI. We are working on artificial intelligence. We're trying to find out how we can improve our culture, our production, our biomass output with using the new technology. So these are very, very important. The whole goal of all these activities is increasing the carrying capacity. I'm sure many of you know that farming means growing the animal. So when we grow the animal, regardless of shrimp, fish, seaweed, mussel, whatever you want to name it, the purpose is to produce more. So how we can really increase the carrying capacity. So we have a culture system. You can do indoor, you can do open farm, you can have a soil, you can have a HTEP, you can have a culture method, which is, you can have a green system, clean system, bioflux, mixotrophic, and etc. The animals are very important, the PL quality, all these PCR tests, a lot of assessment that we have to measure the quality of the animal. Genetic, it's very, very important. So we have people claim I have a fast growing animal, I have a resistance animal, I have a balanced animal. Nutrition and feed, it's extremely important. How much fish meal we use, what is the amino acid content, what is the functional feed, and all these things. And of course, the biosecurity. So all these things will help to have a better carrying capacity. So basically, if you look at this slide, it's telling us how we can improve the carrying capacity, because carrying capacity is something that you're going to challenge with the environmental resistance. So you have a biological potential. You can grow your animal up to the certain level, but there are factors that stop you from doing that. So we have to see today, we want to understand what are the things that we can do to increase and improve our carrying capacity. But when we look at all the challenges in our industry, I think that's what we are talking today. It's a disease. So we can look, the disease is one of the key factors. So how disease can impact our production. Okay, let's see. When we define the disease in a mind of a lot of people, disease means infectious. Infectious disease means what? Means like bacteria, virus, I don't know, like a parasite. There are many, agents that cause shrimp or fish the disease. So this is, we call it infectious disease, means from one shrimp or one fish can transfer to another one. But in fact, disease is not about only infectious. I think the disease is about some other things that sometimes we miss, and it's a combination of everything. So we have a nutritional disease. Nutritional disease means you have a nutritional deficiency on some of the, your operation. So if you have, for example, lack of certain amino acid or certain vitamin C, you will have a certain vitamin, such as vitamin C, you will have a disease problem. Then we have environmental disease. I'm going to talk about like ammonium or hydrogen sulfide and all those things. Then we have genetic related disease. But as a farmer, I want to tell you guys one very important factor. There is no one thing that can make the animal sick. Usually it's a combination of all of them, okay? So we will see what are those factors that come together and make the animal sick and we lose money. One of the key things that we have to understand is the stress. So stress is a factorial, concern that we have. Like you can have a stress of temperature, you can have a stress of pH, you can have a stress of salinity, anything. So basically the key things that we do is stress management. Okay, so I have you with some of the stress example of some of the stress. So like such as insufficient oxygen, nitrogenous gas, toxic gas, molting, nutritional deficiency, high density, handling. So all these things are considered as stress. Then we work on the system that must be balanced. Like when we are talking about, farm condition, sometimes people care about only one factor, two factors. They say, oh, I want my alkalinity like this. Or somebody say, I don't want a ammonium. Or somebody say, if I have a vibrio, my animal will die. But it is not true. I think the successful farmer will look at the balanced environment. The environment, when it's balanced, there are certain factors that we have to look at them and see what are those factors that will help us. I mean, I have mentioned here certain things like pH, like ORP, nitrogen phosphorus ratio, CN ratio, carbon nitrogen ratio. This carbon nitrogen ratio, it can be for autotroph bacteria or heterotroph. And then we have a balance of the bacterial community and also our phytoplankton. These are the key things that I have learned after almost 25 years. And we have to really consider very, very, deep in terms of understanding these things. It's not just the surfer, because sometimes I do a lot of training for the, nowadays we don't travel, but before this, I used to be dealing with a farmer like almost every week. So sometimes you ask the farmer, what is pH? They worry about the pH. But when you ask what is the pH, many of them, they may not even can define the pH, but they say, oh, pH is, if it is up or down, I have a problem. But we have to understand what is the meaning of up and down. Or ORP. A lot of people even never understand what is ORP, which is very important. So I'm going to explain some of these factors, and we want to see what is the relevance of these things to the disease. Why my shrimp get vibriosis? Why my neighbor doesn't get? Why some people can manage the disease, but I cannot? Okay. The whole concept, it goes about nutrient balance in the system, because nutrient balance, it means how do you manage your system to stay in the low energy state. Low energy state means you don't have waste. You don't have too much of organic matter. You don't have a lot of, material that can be utilized by the bacteria or phytoplankton, because either one of them, it goes around above certain level, you will have a crash. So I define very simple, the nutrient balance in the system is talk about carbon nitrogen ratio. Carbon nitrogen ratio, it's extremely important, but it can be different because carbon nitrogen can be for the heterotroph bacteria or it can be autotroph bacteria. So when you add sugar or jaggery or molasses in your system, basically you are encouraging the heterotroph bacteria. But when you add carbonate and bicarbonate in your system, basically you are increasing or improving the carbon nitrogen for autotroph bacteria, such as Nitromonas, Nitrobacter. Then when you come to the nitrogen phosphor ratio, this is mostly for the phytoplankton. So we will talk about this, how these things will help in the managing of the disease. The key things, oxygen. I have said this one many times, and I always tell all my friends, we have around 4,000 people work with us in the farming industry. Oxygen management is the most important thing. You cannot run a shrimp farm or fish farm if you have a shortage of the oxygen. And sometimes people, they don't want to invest on this. I mean, like, how many paddle will I need? How much oxygen I should add to my system? What should I do to increase the oxygen? Because oxygen will help your shrimp to survive, will help the shrimp to fight against the Vibrio, will help the shrimp to fight against the, the virus. Of course, it's not directly, it is not, oxygen will not kill the virus or bacteria, but oxygen will make the shrimp, more healthy. They will have less stress. That's why your shrimp can survive and can live because of the, if any infection we have there. So it's a very simple calculation. I give this one as an example to you guys. So you can see when the FCR increase in the pond, your oxygen requirement is increased. So managing the feed, it's very important. So the feed management usually is because of the, if you overfeed your shrimp or your pond, you will see your oxygen demand will go up. So when the oxygen demand will goes up, usually you have a problem. Let's see how that's happened. Because in the system, you have certain activity that require oxygen. So these oxygens, if utilized by all the chemical reaction and oxidization in the system, so you need to supply more oxygen. I have some example here. For example, when you have nitrification happening in your pond, if you have ammonium, like you have 1 ppm of ammonium, you need at least 3.43 ppm of the oxygen to convert that to the NO2. Because if you want to remove the ammonium because ammonium can be removed through nitrification or assimilation by the phytoplankton. So adding the sufficient oxygen in the system, it is very, very, very important. And you can see when your amount of the production of the nitrite and nitrate and ammonium increase, your oxygen requirement is definitely increased. Like one of the things that we do, like in Singapore, I use liquid oxygen because we have, but can you do this one in India? Of course not. So what is the best way of improving the oxygen in a country that they don't have for example, access to these things? Of course, the best is using the paddle wheel and all those things. So paddle wheel management is very, very important, but I'm not going to talk today about that, but I just want to tell you that it is extremely important to understand how to supply a sufficient oxygen to system. Then when we talk about pH, okay, pH is very important. And it is very crucial to understand how the pH should be managed in the water. pH usually fluctuate because of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, when you have a lot of phytoplankton or less phytoplankton, you have a fluctuation of the pH. But the definition of the pH is very simple. So you understand that sometimes you don't need to worry about too much of the value of the pH. You should worry about a pH, how much fluctuate per day, because that stress can kill the shrimp. Sometimes if your pond pH is all the way is 7.2, still is okay. But if this 7.2 becomes 7.2 and tomorrow and in the evening, for example, later become 8.2 and then come back again to 7.2, that is how you will have a stress shrimp in your system. This is one of the very, very important things. I think there's a lot of farmer. I don't use lime. I don't use lime. I don't recommend my friend, my customer use lime. So a lot of people cannot survive without lime. They think that the lime is very important. And we have this discussion for so many years that how the liming means CaCO3 can help in shrimp farming. I would say very simple, lime is not water soluble. And it's not 100% water soluble, okay? When you mix the lime with the water, you can test it. You can take a bottled water, you know, like one of those bottled water and fill it up with the water and then add lime inside. You can shake it for 3 months or so. It will not dissolve. Very low solubility. So if something cannot dissolve in the water, how can improve the water quality? I think there is a definition between, there is a misunderstanding between lime and the calcium and alkalinity. I think alkalinity is very important. But alkalinity definition, it's more, we talk about carbonate and bicarbonate. But when you talk about the lime, people usually refer to the supply of the calcium, which is not very true. We will discuss supply of the calcium. We have to talk about how a calcium can really supply to the water. It must be in an iron form. But the lime is not water soluble. So water solubility of the lime is very much depends on the pH, is the amount of the carbon dioxide and a lot of other factors. So if you want to understand how the alkalinity and hardness and those iron are important in the water, you must look at the upper side of this table. So you need to measure carbonate and bicarbonate, because many of you, when you measure alkalinity, you use a basically colorimetric method. You use the TOS test kit. So it's a yellow, light yellow, dark yellow, and that is only measuring carbonate calcium. You can read the instruction on the box. But actually, if you want to understand how much alkalinity you have in the reality, you have to do titration. So by doing the titration, and what is the benefit of the alkalinity to the shrimp pond? The benefit, it's more about nitrification and supplying the carbon to the autotroph activity and buffering the pH. Is in the reality, it has nothing to do with the calcium supplement, but because it's connected, we are connecting the calcium carbonate to this, we think that is important. Calcium supplement and magnesium supplement, it's a very different discussion. That cannot come through only lime, okay? So when we look here, you can see here, when we have the, the carbonate and bicarbonate, of course, they usually different between the pH, they have a different form. So you have a low pH, you have a high pH, you have a different presence of the carbon in the system, okay? And definitely this buffering capacity and the pH fluctuation, as I say, 95% related to your bloom of the phytoplankton. So if you have a high bloom of phytoplankton, you have a higher fluctuation of the pH. If you have a lower bloom of phytoplankton, or you maintain your phytoplankton in the desired level, you have a less fluctuation. So the best way to manage pH and the stress through the pH to the shrimp is to manage phytoplankton. Okay, we will discuss about this again later. So, and then we talk about ORP, oxidation reduction potential. How ORP is important. I don't know how many of you really have measured. I put a long text here. The reason that because I want you guys to read and understand. ORP mostly is oxidation reduction potential. Is referred to all this. When we measure the ORP with our ORP meter, we usually measure the negative ion of the oxygen in the system, because that's help us to understand how much oxidation capacity we have in our pond. So if you have more electron in the system, that's why we measure ORP by the millivolt. So when you measure more ORP, means you have more capacity to oxidize the other element in the water, which is help you to reduce the organic matter. Okay, so when the ORP is higher, basically your oxidization capacity is higher. That's why in a higher ORP, you will have less toxic ammonium. You will have a less NO2 in the system because oxidization can happen. When the ORP is low, I can guarantee you, whatever you do, you will have a problem with your system. ORP is absolutely related to the carrying capacity of the system. So higher ORP usually give us much more better productivity. What does it mean by higher ORP? ORP can be vary from a range of -2,000 to the +2,000. But for an aquaculture farm, for any aquaculture activity, if we can maintain anything above 150 millivolt up to 200 or 300 millivolt, it's very good. So how to maintain this, how the ORP increase in the system, I think we can talk about that. It's usually is through the bacteria. I will explain how this happens and how this one can affect the disease. Because you can see, we are just talking only about the environmental factor, but how this environmental factor can help to improve the disease, we will come at the end. Because you must understand, as I said, the diseases, we all consider like infectious disease. I say, okay, I have a vibriosis, I have a white spot, I have a zootanium, for example, all the time. How these things can be impacted by the environmental factor. We will talk about it. I will show you how it goes. But we have to understand first, what are those environmental factors? So ORP is one of the key things. I personally can assure you, I have seen myself in my farm, when I have a high ORP, I have a less disease problem. And the reason is that because when the ORP is high, means the system is more cleaner. The system has less pollutant. I mean, I just say the layman word. So in that manner, you will have definitely stronger animal. And when animals are stronger, they naturally can fight the disease. We will come to that part, that how each one of these factors can help. But I just want you to understand that maintaining all these things in the standard level, it's extremely important. So when we look at the ORP and COD, chemical oxygen demand in the water, we can see there is a absolutely negative relationship between these two. So when the COD goes down, ORP goes up. And this exactly related to the BOD also. So when you have a high organic matter in the system, when your ORP start to go up, means your oxygen start to utilize the ion of the oxygen in the system, and you still maintain the high amount, means your system get cleaner. Okay, so you have a less. That's why COD usually indicate the degree of the organic pollution of the water, which this one is definitely related to the ORP. So if you have a higher organic matter and your ORP is increasing, so it means your system is stable, means your system is capable of self-cleaning. That is very important. And this is nothing related to you do this one in a earth pond or plastic line or indoor. These are all apply very well. And we have seen, for example, hydrogen sulfide. I mean, I know like in India, like for example, in the center of the Andhra, there are farms that are very, very old. They're like 20 years, 30 years old farm. And the productivity drop. Exactly, if you go and analyze, you can see those ponds are having a very low ORP. They have a very low carrying capacity. So that is exactly because sometimes, for example, here, ORP has a negative relationship, correlation with a hydrogen sulfide. So the hydrogen sulfide, it goes up when the ORP is low. So this is very, very important, is also in a controlling the ammonium, exactly the same. So there is a relationship between ORP and all this nitrification and also the sulfur cycle. And these are the factors that impact the shrimp health very much. And we talk about CN ratio, NP ratio. But we have here one very important, usually in a shrimp pond, we say CN ratio should be around 6 to 1. Means you have six carbon and you have 1 nitrogen. And then NP ratio, it very much depends on the type of the phytoplankton you have. So if you want to have a green phytoplankton, usually NP ratio is around 30. If you have a blue-green algae, your NP ratio is definitely below 10. If you want to have a stable system, we recommend NP ratio must be around 20. 20 means you have a brownish green, means you have a diatom and you have a green algae. But these are very interrelated. So you can see if you put CNP ratio in a certain different condition, you will have a different impact. So it is very important. These are all connected to each other. So if you have an aerobic or anaerobic condition, all this ratio will change. And this is one of the most important, I think, what do you call, a relationship between the different component in the shrimp pond, which you know, all of you, what is this? This is the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle is the most important cycle in the whole shrimp farming. I think if any farmer learn this one by heart, they can manage a lot of things. So what is nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen cycle is exactly what a shrimp farmer trying to do. So if you can manage the nitrogen cycle, basically you can manage the whole system. If you look at the bottom of this slide, there is an organic matter. So where do organic matter come from? Organic matter is the combination of your leftover of your feed, is a dead phytoplankton, dead zooplankton, anything that is organic. So usually this one, it will be degraded through the heterotrophic activity. So we call it ammonification. So when the ammonification happens, heterotroph bacteria start to degrade this organic matter. Usually we require a lot of magnesium and calcium in the process of ammonification. That's why when you want to degrade your organic matter, in my system, I always recommend add mineral in the water, because mineral will help, very much to manage this ammonification much more faster, means you will reduce your level of organic matter. So when the ammonification happens, what is the result? Is ammonium, is the NH4. This one, you can see, it can be assimilated by phytoplankton, means phytoplankton for their bloom, they need to have a ammonium or NO3. They cannot consume NO2. And also for the bacteria to generate their basically biomass, they utilize this back and also work in the nitrification cycle. Means in the nitrification process, this is a nitrogen cycle, but in the nitrification, which is the oxidizing of the NH4 to NO2 and NO3, this is the absolutely oxidizing process. You need a very high ORP here. And then this process happens when you have a alkalinity, when you have a carbon that is inorganic in the system. And this is something that you don't need to analyze, you don't need to measure. You just supply a sufficient, need for the system. So what is that? You need to apply a good probiotic, you need to apply the sufficient mineral, and you need to have a good alkalinity in the system and a sufficient oxygen. So if you supply all these things, you can reduce your organic matter in the system, because it was organic matter, it will be converted through this cycle. If you talk about nitrogen, all the protein and everything that you have in a leftover of the feed or dead body of the shrimp or phytoplankton will convert to the gas and it goes up. And also create a balanced environment. That's what I say. The balanced environment means your water quality will be definitely better, because you have naturally a cycle that producing a bacteria biomass and a sufficient phytoplankton. And this phytoplankton can create zooplankton and benthos. If you are doing a soil pond, then you have definitely a balanced environment. So if anything broken here, you imagine if anything broken, if I don't have sufficient oxygen, what's going to happen? My ammonium going to be pile up. That's why your ammonium start to goes up, because you don't have, for example, sufficient oxygen, or you don't have sufficient or inorganic carbon, or you don't have nitrifying bacteria. That is why ammonium start to go up in the water. So when the ammonium goes up in the water, what happened to the shrimp? Shrimp can die. Why? Because shrimp extract the ammonium from their gill when they consume, just like how we go to the restroom and we urinate, is shrimp also do the same things through their gill. So if there is a high level of the ammonium in the water, so shrimp cannot do that. So the ammonium remain in their body and they get, basically ammonium work like a toxin in their body and the shrimp die. So it's the same concept. So you have to lower the ammonium level in the water to allow shrimp to excrete the ammonium outside their body. So you have to make sure that nitrification happen in your system. If it doesn't happen, it's going to be stuck. So sometimes you can move from NH4 to NO2 and it's stopping the NO2. It become more toxic. Or you can go to NO3, like in a very high density system, usually NO3 is the highest amount in the water. But then if you have a good phytoplankton and a balanced system, this phytoplankton can absorb NH4, NO3, and create a biomass of the phytoplankton. If you have a sufficient heterotrophic bacteria, it can consume this. But these are all require a what you call is a cycle. This is what I call it here. You can call this one circular economy of the pond management. It's the same thing. Waste of one utilized by the waste of the another one. So learning and understanding this cycle is extremely important. So in a nitrogen cycle, as I say, you have the autotrophic organism and you have the heterotrophic organism. So these two are work together, okay? So those are very important to run the nitrogen cycle. That's why you can see in the shrimp pond or generally in the water environment, we have a different, that's how I patented my system. I call it mixotrophic. That's why you can see there are a lot of different trophic level here. Okay, how all this trophic will help to improve our system, our shrimp, okay? So I have here a very quick pictures of, how we can manage in the different levels, all this trophic. This shows that if you are running an indoor system, you will utilize chemoautotrophic. But if you are in an outdoor system, we look at the mixotrophic system is like you have a phytoplankton, then you lower your phytoplankton, increase your bacteria. So you use CN ratio, NP ratio. CN ratio, you can balance it with the alkalinity and you can balance it with the jaggery or with the, I don't know, the molos or whatever. And then you have a phytoplankton, you balance it with the nitrogen phosphor level. So in a mixotrophic, we create a 3-phase. I call it phytoplanktonic phase. This is the phase number 1. When you do stocking, you need to have a very good bloom of phytoplankton because when you put the PL in the pond, you have a lot of small baby. This baby need to eat. So the shrimp larvae at the first stage of the life, they need to eat. So you don't need to worry about too much about is my system clean or not. So if you have done the correct pond preparation, your system requires a lot of phytoplankton because this phytoplankton will help the shrimp to grow faster because they create the food chain and they grow. Okay, then the second stage, when the shrimp get bigger, we increase the probiotic and we reduce the phytoplankton. That's why you can see you have a concern about pH, CN ratio, and ORP. This is very important here. Then the last stage, we call it probiotic stage. In a probiotic stage, basically, you can see in the graph, we reduce the phytoplankton to the lowest possible because we have a big animal, we do a lot of feeding. So we need to have more bacteria in the system to help us to clean the system, okay? So by doing this one, how we can do the shrimp disease management? Let's look at that. So when we talk about disease, as I say, we have an infectious disease like bacteria, virus, parasite, fungi, and you have a non-infectious disease like nutrition, environment, genetic. So we understand that any of the right side can infect the left side, okay? So how it's work? Imagine in a shrimp farming, I put like few name here. So you have like common infectious disease, white spot. I think every shrimp farmer know what is the white spot. So we have IHHNV, we have vibriosis. I'm going to talk a lot about vibriosis, and you have something like EMS and all, AHNP, the acute hepatopancreas necrosis disease. So we will try to discuss to see how we can manage some of this disease through our environmental control. So first we have to know how the shrimp gets sick. So a lot of people, maybe sometimes they don't understand why their shrimp get sick. It's very simple. I just put some very layman words here. It's not like too much of scientific words, but I try to make it in a way that is more like a, what do you call, understandable for everybody. So you can see here, cannibalism of the infected shrimp, it can be very, very important in transferring the disease. So if you have a shrimp that is having a virus, same as, for example, white spot, it can be through cannibalism to transfer. So infected intermediate host also can. You have a vertical transmission through the hatchery, through the brooder stock. Sometimes we do high density without considering all the other parameters. It can cause disease because the animals are so close to each other and they have a lot of stress. Many cases, we have a very poor biosecurity. And very important, we have a lot of pathogenic bacteria or virus in the system. Okay, let's see how these things will work. So environmental stress, such as ammonium, we talked just now, ammonia, we just talked just now about it. How this can infect the shrimp. So if imagine your shrimp is healthy, but suddenly your ammonia goes up in the water, you're gonna have a gill damage. You're gonna have, a weak shrimp. You have a poor growth and a very high mortality due to the very simple, because shrimp cannot extract the ammonium from their body out when they digest the feed. So the shrimp basically having a very low, health status and very high stress, then very easily can be target of any bacteria or any like something like a Vibrio in the system. If you look at the hydrogen sulfide, also is the same story. You have basically is block hydrogen sulfide, block the oxygen transport and the ATP production in the body of the shrimp. So when this one happen, means shrimp will not have sufficient oxygen to receive to their organs and their body. So they will have a stress again. So you can see all these things, it causes the shrimp to get weak. So when the shrimp is weak, then if you have a high number of the animal in the system that they are sick, it can be transferred very easy here. You can see, I put here like very, very common confusion that a lot of people they have. Sometimes we don't understand. We see, I give you an example of white spot. In a white spot, a lot of people see the spot on the carapace of the shrimp, but they don't understand that is this really white spot that caused by the virus or is something else? Because we have a white spot that is caused by bacteria. High number of the bacillus in the system, overshooting of the probiotic or not using the correct probiotic can cause a sort of the white spot. I have a picture here you can see. So this one is exactly show you which one is the really white spot and which one is just the bacteria white spot. So the bacteria white spot usually will not kill the shrimp. It just sometimes create more stress, but the appearance by looking at the naked eyes is the same. Okay, they all have this flower, but when you put under microscope and you look very carefully, you can see they are different. So sometimes the farmer also confuse the disease. They have a misunderstanding about what do I have as a disease? And then they take a wrong action and they lose their, the biomass. You can see here, you will see this kind of picture very often. People say, I have a white spot. But sometimes you use too much of the bacillus species, especially some species through some probiotic, it can cause this kind of things, which is not a really white spot, okay? So when we look at the shrimp, I want everybody to understand that what are the crucial organ in the body of a shrimp. Has a very simple, anatomy, very simple. They don't have really specific immune system, okay? It's a non-specific immune system. So hepatopancreas is considered as one of the very, very important organ of the shrimp. What it does, it's work like a sort of an immunity for the shrimp. They produce enzyme. They help in a digestion and absorption of the nutrient. They store the nutrient and they help in the transportation. Okay. When the hepatopancreas does not work very well, we can notice, we can see. But you can see here, beside the hepatopancreas, you have the stomach, which we have the mouth of the shrimp, and then we have the stomach, and then we have the midgut, and then we have the hindgut or anus. So you can see the whole process. The shrimp digestive system is so small. They have so simple, and they have really nothing much compared to the other species. So some of these are very much exposed to the outside of the body. Which are those? Is definitely the gut, inside the gut, and also the gill. So we will talk how the shrimp can really get infected. But when you look at the hepatopancreas has a sort of a different type of the cells. So you have E cell, B cell, R cell, and F cell. So each one of them, they do a different job. This one small organ, it does a lot of things. That's why I always say hepatopancreas is the best indicator for the health of the shrimp. So I don't want you guys to learn all this, but I just want you to understand that hepatopancreas has a lot of function. So when we see the hepatopancreas as an indicator, so we will understand, is my shrimp healthy or not? Okay. So sometimes when you look at the hepatopancreas, by the appearance of the hepatopancreas, we will see, okay. So you can see on top, you have a healthy shrimp. At the bottom, you have a shrimp that has a problem with the hepatopancreas. So recently, like we know that we have like this Vibrio parahemolyticus bacteriophage that people call it, EMS, which is not the correct word, but it's just a vibriosis, is a much more stronger vibriosis. We can notice that the hepatopancreas color change. They have the, impact on the hepatopancreas. So how this really happened? So we can see that under the microscope, when the Vibrio attack the hepatopancreas, they produce this toxin and they destroy the cell wall. Okay. Now let's see, when we are looking at the disease monitoring, we have to have a monitoring of the water quality and bacteria in hepatopancreas and water. You understand how the shrimp get infected. That is very important. Shrimp get infected either from the water or it come with itself from the hatchery. So if your shrimp in the water, first, before shrimp get infected, you have to notice the number of the bacteria increase in the water. That's why a consistent monitoring of the water quality and the bacteria in the water and hepatopancreas is very important. So if you see the number of the Vibrio increase in the water, it's a bad sign, because this number can increase in the body of the shrimp. Okay. So the water sampling and the location, the size of the sample, and all those things are very important. And we have to take a sample from the water and from the shrimp. So we analyze the water quality, means all these parameters plus the number of the bacteria, CFU of the Vibrio in the water, and we analyze the shrimp. So I call it first defense, second defense. We will see how we can, basically define those things. So there is a common media to analyze Vibrio in the water. So we call it TCBS agar. And a lot of people do a lot of mistake about this TCBS agar. It doesn't mean that anything grow in a TCBS agar, everything grow in TCBS agar means they are Vibrio and they are dangerous. It's not true. Sometimes there are other bacteria, I will show you, that they grow in a TCBS agar, which they are not dangerous at all. And some of the Vibrio, also they are not dangerous. So the number on the TCBS agar alone, it does not indicate that you have a problem or not. So you have to understand what is the exactly bacteria you have, which is very simple. You don't need to be really microbiologist to do that. We will see. I have a picture here, very simple. The two very important species of the Vibrio. One is the Vibrio parahemolyticus, another one is the Vibrio harvey. You can see in the left-hand side very clearly, if you have a Vibrio parahemolyticus, it doesn't matter, is a bacteriophage or is a normal one. You have a very round colony, and the agar that you are using, the TCBS agar, the color will not change. It remain as green. But when you have the Vibrio Harvey, it change. It's different. They are flat, and the color of the agar, they ferment the agar. And sometimes you see other bacteria in the system that also grow in the TCBS, but you can see very long range of the bacteria. They will be mistaken by the Vibrio. So it is not necessary that all these, are they dangerous. So you just remember these two. These are the most important things. It's a very easy visual analysis. So you put under microscope, even with a low magnification, you would see. When you see like this, you can say, okay, I have a parahemolyticus. Then you can count the number. I have seen many farmers, they analyze TCBS agar and they think that, oh, I have like a 10 power 3, 10 power 4. 10 power 3 of what? It's a total colony count. So it doesn't mean that you have, and then they go and take action. They do things that it harm more than that. So first we have to know who's our enemy. Are we talking about the Vibrio parahemolyticus? Are we talking about Vibrio Harvey? Or we are talking about some other harmless Vibrio or other bacteria that I have a name here, you can see. There are a long range of, a lot of streptococcus can grow, a lot of other bacteria, even bacillus can grow. So which they are not at all. And in your water is a combination of many, many bacteria. I always say shrimp swim in a soup of bacteria. So we have a lot of bacteria in the water. You take a sample, you take 100 milliliter of the water and then do it there. And then you see there are many things. Yes, TCBS agar is the selective agar, but it is not 100% only for Vibrio. So what I have here exactly show you that not all the bacteria grow inside that are dangerous. So first, before taking any action, my first recommendation, make sure that you have any one of these two and in a very high density. If you have a low density of this bacteria, it's nothing wrong because this is the natural flora of the system. You cannot eliminate the Vibrio totally from system. There is no such a thing. You cannot eliminate, some other bacteria from the system because you are doing it even like in an indoor, in a hatchery. It's not possible. As long as the density does not reach to the higher level, you are safe. That's what I say. The first line of defense is the water. So you understand that inside your water, you don't have too much of either one of those two. That's very important. When the number reach to the certain level, then you have to take action. Why? Because you can see here, we have here very simple disease management through prevention. You have a culture environment is your pond. So you have to make sure that the number of the pathogenic Vibrio in your pond, it doesn't go beyond certain level. And you have to make sure that those Vibrio are really dangerous Vibrio. Then if the number is too much, what's going to happen? They're going to go to the external surface of the shrimp. I put it, as I say, it's the layman way. Means the Vibrio increase, where they go? They go inside the gut. Where they go? They go to the gill, okay? And on the surface of the shrimp. So this is the second, action that can happen. So it's still, there is a chance for us to improve our system. But when the Vibrio migrate to the internal organ, so when you have a Vibrio in hepatopancreas or inside the villi of the gut, then the job becomes much more difficult. Still possible, but it's much more difficult. So you can see, you can control either in the number 1 or number 2. But when you reach to the number 3, you have more complication and it's going to be more difficult for you to manage that. Okay, so we have here very simple solution. The best way to control Vibrio in the system is the antagonistic effect of the other bacteria against the Vibrio or the fighting with each other. So if you use the good probiotic, if you have a probiotic that if fight with the Vibrio, they have a competition with the Vibrio, you can apply in your pond. So you will reduce the number of the Vibrio in the system. When your system, it has a biofilm of the good bacteria, you are safe. If your system is colonized by the good bacteria, you basically safe. because it will not be allowing to the Vibrio to increase the number, because when the number of Vibrio increase, we have a Coulomb sensing. Coulomb sensing means bacteria start to talk to each other and the number start to increase much more faster. So first we defense our water. So we have to make sure that in our water we have very limited number of the pathogenic Vibrio. Then is the probiotic apply in the feed. I am not too fan of the probiotic, that dry probiotic that many people in the market today, they are selling to the shrimp industry. It doesn't work because those bacteria are not really live. They are in a spore form, and you add to the feed, they're going to be just come up from the shrimp body very fast. I'm talking about the live probiotic that you enrich the feed with that. There is a process for that. So in my company, we have developed very nice process for that. I'm not promoting a product here, but I just want to tell you there is a different way. So when you do that, when you diet or you do it in the hatchery, basically you can see here, this is the villi of the shrimp, the gut. The gut has all those small, what do you call, surface area. Those surface area to help the shrimp to increase the absorption of the nutrient. So when the bacteria, for example, imagine if the Vibrio want to go there and get colonized, if you have a good bacteria before that is there, so the microvilli will not be colonized by the bacteria that are not good, like Parahemolyticus or Harvey, okay? So this is I call it two line of the defense. One line of the defense is the water, another line of the defense is the body of the shrimp. It's the same concept apply to the gill, because vibriosis can appear in the gill also. So if you have a good bacteria in the system, they will be in the gill of the shrimp, so the Vibrio cannot go there, okay? It's the same concept apply in the hatchery also, okay? So these are all very important. These are the two that most crucial things. But again, how to maintain the good bacteria in the water, how to reduce the stress, we discuss and we will see. So here you can see, for example, we have the water that has the pathogenic bacteria. So when you add the good probiotic in the system, through the competition, they will reduce the number of the Vibrio and you have a good bacteria. So nobody can say I will 100% remove or I can get rid of the Vibrio. That's not true and it will not happen. But we will reduce the number. Okay, so still you have a Vibrio, but the numbers are much more less. Okay, so we have a product, we call it Vibrigo. I mean, like this one will help in terms of Coulomb sensing, in terms of the controlling the Vibrio, and it is very good as the first line of the defense. Then it is the same story in the microvilli of the shrimp. So you have to colonize the microvilli with a good bacteria. Okay, so these are mostly are the lactobacillus. Of course, shrimp is in the water, in the soup of the bacteria. They drink every day a lot of bacteria, but not all of them can be colonized in the gut and can fight with the Vibrio. So you need to really lower the pH in the gut and also increase the number of the good bacteria. So that's why we try to colonize this through the feeding daily. So we have the gut flora has a lot of lactobacillus in the system. So they will produce lactic acid, which when the Vibrio come, they will die because the pH is not good for them, and also help in digestion and protect the microvilli and create a very thin film inside the gut of the shrimp. So you can see from here, by looking at all those parameters, that the environmental parameter, and also looking at how the vibriosis can really enter to the shrimp body. Because if you have a strong shrimp, if you have a healthy shrimp, if you have a good water quality, even the presence of the Vibrio in the system will not be causing any problem. It's fine because it's your shrimp is strong enough. That's why, as a summary, I can say there is no single factor can help you to be successful in your disease management or even shrimp farming. Because I have seen sometimes people, they claim, I have a magic powder, I have this product can help this. No, this is the effort of doing a lot of things to make sure that your system runs very well. Just like if somebody gets sick, even the simple catch cold, you go see a doctor, They will ask you to take this pill, that pill, rest well, eat soup. I don't know, don't do this, don't do that. It's not possible that we can just do one action, take one action and make sure that our shrimp does not die or doesn't get in trouble. So always it's the combination of a different factors. So I can say always is basically, I like to call it water dynamic and gas dynamic. These are very important. So water dynamic, more about managing the water, gas dynamic, managing all the gases in the water. And then of course, the nutrition and the biosecurity, these are the insurance for the health of the shrimp. It's extremely important. So it is not one effort. It is more about putting a lot of things together and getting the complete, picture. Shrimp farming, it's like is a beautiful picture, like a puzzle. So there are many, many pieces. So you miss one piece, your picture is not complete. So I have never in the past 25 years recommended anybody for single action. I don't believe on that. I don't believe there is a magic bullet in our industry. And we are every day learning. We are trying to understand how to, like in my farm, I do 2,000 pieces of shrimp per square meter. But we have a lot of challenge and we learn and improve and improve. So that is how we learn. Because if I think just only one action can help me to do, then there is no meaning for science and experience. Okay. So I think here I will stop my presentation. We can take some questions. I don't know what are the questions we have. I will pass to the Bahar. She is maybe managing the question. I don't know if you guys have any question, you can ask me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Farshad, for that informative presentation. So I will display everyone's questions on my screen. Okay, so Dr. Farshad, if you can look at your screen, these are the questions some of the participants had.
Read.
What? Can you
hear me, right?
Okay.
What are the role of the vibriosis in aqua?
Okay.
What are the role of the vibriosis? Vibriosis has no role except is a disease. And what is the influence of the water quality parameter? I think I explained that. Vibriosis is a disease. There is no role for the vibriosis, basically. And Vibrio is a part of the natural flora of the water. Nobody can say, I want to have a farm that doesn't have at all Vibrio. That's never going to happen, okay? And the water quality, of course, influence the Vibrio very much. So bad water quality always encourage, encourage a lot of bad bacteria, pathogenic bacteria in the system. So it's more or less about managing the good water quality, which help you to improve your flora of the water. So you will have a less pathogenic bacteria. The next question, is there disease in fish pond maintained in village coast sometimes cause itching in the throat after eating the fishes? I don't know that. I'm sorry, I will pass that. How to control ammonia? I think the controlling ammonia I mentioned very clearly, but I will repeat one more time very quick. Ammonia is, as I say, you must understand the nitrification. You cannot reduce production of ammonia as long as you don't reduce your organic matter in the system. So ammonia is not bad, is not good. Ammonia is a part of your ecosystem. And we need ammonia in the system on a certain level. Usually when ammonia become a problem, that your production of ammonia is definitely more than the demand that you have. So to manage ammonia, you need to make sure that you have a good nitrification, you have a good ammonification, and you control your feed. Next question, how we can know that ORP is there in the pond? ORP always in the pond. ORP is not something that you can see. I mean, it's not like something that we can touch it. ORP, as I say, for us, the ORP means how many ion of the oxygen you have in the system. Means O negative. Okay, it can be many other ions also, but we consider the oxygen one.
So for the ORP, when you want to increase the ORP, you must make sure that you have less organic matter. That's what I say. Good using the probiotic will always help to increase the ORP, and the ORP become less issue for us, because higher ORP will definitely help to increase the carrying capacity. We have seen that very well. How to increase the ORP in the same, just the best is that control feeding, reduce the organic matter in the system, and also definitely apply a lot of probiotics, because probiotic and the bacteria usually increase the ORP in the system. And of course, you need to have a very well managed water quality, because these are all connected together. How do we control filamentous algae in the brackish water pond that's stocked in the with right stockfish? Okay, filamentous filamentous bacteria, filamentous algae, they are more like a blue-green algae. They require there are two types of them. One of them are having a very low nitrogen phosphor ratio, means the nitrogen phosphor ratio is below 10, and some of them have a very, very high nitrogen phosphor ratio, means above 100. So both of them is the imbalance in nitrogen phosphor, and also usually it is the phosphor that is a problem. Okay, so if you manage your phosphor, and the phosphor, it comes through the feed, and that's how we can manage. And then the pond is having aeration system. Of course, aeration is different for filamentous algae. Filamentous algae, when you start the culture and you have a transparency in the water, usually filamentous algae will come. Way to increase ORP level, I think I explained that. The ORP, use good probiotic, reduce the feeding, don't do overfeeding. How to identify white spot in the farming start, how to treatment. Okay, you see the white spot, it is not about, you cannot identify. There are of course some sign there, and you have to send for the PCR. And the common sign is the very rapid mortality. You will have a lot of mortality. You will see, the white patches on the carapace of the shrimp. But what I say about the bacteria white spot was that sometimes we should not confuse. Okay, so that is, but you have to send to the lab definitely to do the analysis for you. How to control white spot disease? Definitely only through the biosecurity. So viral disease and the virus only can manage through the biosecurity. There is no other solution for that. And also make sure that you buy the PL from a good hatchery, that they have a very good, biosecurity, and checking on the, viral disease, very common. Okay, shrimp culture, water management, important. Everything fluctuate with treatment, how we control. Yeah, that's what take a very long time to learn, because water quality management is a combination of a lot of things. So we fluctuate with temperature, how we can control. Okay, it is not true that everything fluctuates by temperature. Temperature you cannot control at all, but the temperature is important. So you don't need to worry about temperature. I think there are other factors if you control, then temperature become much more less, impact on your system. How heterotrophic bacteria help to reduce ammonia in the water? Definitely, heterotrophic bacteria, they will use ammonia for creating the biomass, and they use, and we have a what you call the CN ratio for the heterotrophic bacteria, and that N is all the nitrogen come from ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. So they utilize. Basically, heterotroph bacteria also can do nitrification, but the rate is very small. I mean, like compared to the autotroph bacteria. Autotroph bacteria at least 10,000 times much more faster than the heterotroph bacteria. So heterotrophic bacteria absolutely can reduce. They use that one for the biomass. I'm asking because Nitromonas and Nitrobacter are autotroph bacteria. Absolutely correct. Nitromonas, Nitrobacter are autotroph bacteria, and they usually work very differently and much more faster, but they are very sensitive. They are the absolutely aerobic bacteria. They need oxygen to work. What bacteria can challenge with Vibrio parahemolyticus? All the bacteria that you guys must understand one very important factor here, that Vibrio or Bacillus or Lactobacillus, they have no memory, they have no eyes, they have no brain. They don't know they are fighting with who. So as long as you can do the good colonization in your system and use the bacteria that they can really create a good microfilm. Vibrio is actually Vibrio not very strong bacteria. Vibrio is a gram-negative bacteria. They have a very thin cell wall. So they can be destroyed very fast. But sometimes our microfilm and our bacteria that we are using in the system is not very good. So I can say if you want to control Vibrio parameters in the water, we usually use Bacillus. In the gut of the shrimp, we use Lactobacillus. Is there any recent research last 2-3 years of rearing a large quantity of a fish? I don't know what is that fish, honestly. What is the frequency and quantity of the probiotic to be used? It all depends on the manufacturer, but I can say very simple. Every bacteria, if you use anything longer than 3 days, 4 days, usually you will have problems. So we use, but the quantities goes back to the CFU of the manufacturer, what they do, how much they have. That's very important. How we can stop filamentous algae, any chemical? There is no chemical. I think the best is that you can use water colorant to increase the, to create a color in the water. And then when you have a color in the water, the sunlight cannot reach to the filamentous algae and they die. But that one has one disadvantage, because when the filamentous algae, they die, they add to the your organic matter, and sometimes they can cause mortality on the fish and shrimp. So I would definitely recommend, when you are using a water colorant, you have to combine that one together with a good probiotic, so they will digest those organic matter in the system. Bioflux versus probiotic, which one better? They are all bioflux also. I mean, probiotic is a probiotic. Bioflux is a phenomena happen in the water. You can, in the bioflux system, if you're talking about the culture method, those, my friend, that they recommend bioflux, they usually leave the bacteria to the nature to decide what type of colonization. But for our system, we use probiotic because we want to control the type of the bacteria. So I would say definitely bioflux that come through probiotic is much more better. How to control excessive bloom? Yes, definitely you have to control the nutrient. The bloom come through what? Because you have a lot of nitrogen, you have a lot of phosphorus in the system. So those things come through overfeeding, come through a lot of organic matter in the system. So that's what I say. There is a very, very good relationship between nutrient and the bloom of the algae. So you have an overfeeding, you usually have a overbloom. So we need to let those nutrients absorbed by other things. That's one of the best way I would recommend is a bacteria. So in my system, I want to control phytoplankton. I use probiotics. Okay, the probiotic is the best way to control the bloom. How control EHP problem? EHP more complicated than the maybe vibriosis, in my opinion. This is the parasite, and it goes back to the water quality and pond management, and sometimes also it can be transferred through the vertical transmission. So it's more difficult. I think it's the same question, and use of the AOB, and I don't know what is that. NOB, AOB, I really don't know. Oh, anaerobic bacteria. Okay. Aerobic and anaerobic bacteria. I mean, like most of bacteria that we are using are facultative aerobic bacteria. You want to ask me what to use? I would say definitely facultative bacteria, because they can work in the low oxygen and the high oxygen. So it's not necessary for you to decide which one, because if you use anaerobic bacteria, they will die right away. And I don't see the reason. I think the best probiotic still come from the anaerobic bacteria. So I think that was the last question, because we are already more than 1.5 hours. I think if I talk so long also, you guys get tired. Hopefully we will have more discussion. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Chandra, my general manager in India. He has been working very hard to arrange this seminar, and also to Natalie and Bahar. They have done a very good job. I mean, behind the scene, there are many people. We have our salespeople, Ramu and other people. We have a lot of activity in India. I hope all my old friends and the customers and the people we have in India, they will If they have any question, if they need anything, please contact Mr. Chandra. He will be more than happy to assist you. We are looking forward to see how we can help our friends in India. We have a lot of new development, new products in India that coming very soon. We have a lot of new excitement. We will announce very soon. India for us is very important market. We look at India as one of our key market. We will put all our effort to make sure that our presence in India grow every day bigger, and we can help the Indian farmer to get more successful and to have definitely a better farming activity. And with that, I wish you all the best, and looking forward, hopefully after all these things, we will see each other soon in India. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Farshad, for the Practical Pond Management for Disease-Free Operation webinar. I hope everyone had a good time, and I hope we all answered your questions. Take care.